with your host, Andrew Romanella.
When you play Battle in Mario Kart and you don't turn off any of the items, there are bananas everywhere. I mean, it's like you're losing your balloons because you're slipping on bananas left and right. Bananas everywhere. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com. Broadcasting live on YouTube, X. Oh, we're playing the intro again. Yes, it is. YouTube, X, Roku TV, and Amazon TV. I'm your host, Andrew Romanella. It's a Friday, 2025 February, and we're happy to be here with you. Sad about the results of the Four Nation Championship, but excited to talk with you about sports heading into an exciting sports weekend. We're going to talk Canada's victory. ESPN and Major League Baseball made a decision about their TV deal that I think is going to have a profound impact on the game long term. I got to let you know what I'm watching this weekend and what you need to be watching this weekend. And if we have some time, we can talk Victor Wembanyama's season-ending situation with the San Antonio Spurs. But we remind you to get in on the action. The Rome Show 1, Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok. You know the drill, all the social medias, or follow the mothership. That's 12OZ Sports on all of the same social media platforms. Last night, you, the fan, was the winner. Last night, you, the fan, got the excitement of a nation versus nation square down. Last week, we, the fans, got introduced to the purest form of hockey. We were the winners because of the Four Nations Cup. The people won because of how the players, the coaches, the staff, the National Hockey League, the international hockey community, and everybody associated with the Four Nations Cup handled the Four Nations Cup and the product that they put on the ice. You can't think anything else this morning besides the fact that the game of hockey is in a better place today than it ever was yesterday, than it ever was 8 days ago, because of the type of hockey that was on display last night, but beyond that, the last 8 days. This was such a super successful tournament from so many different angles, and it's so exciting for hockey that this is the display of their best v best, that this is what it looks like when they put the best in their sport on the ice. And man, was it fun. Let's get to the highlights of last night's game, starting with Nathan MacKinnon for Team Canada, making it a quick 1-0 game, just 4:42 into the contest. MacKinnon, the tournament's most valuable player, he netted 4 goals throughout this tournament in Canada's 4 games. 3 goals scored on Connor Hellebuck last night, all 3 either top left or top right corner. Don't know if that was the game plan for Canada, but that is the way it worked out. However, there is a hockey family that has not only existed for the last 30 years, but that has been officially introduced to the United States of America, and that is the Tkachuk family. And Brady Tkachuk at the 1652 mark ties it for Team USA. Check out this angle and check out this excitement from Brady Tkachuk. Just so much excitement, so much energy. The first period ends at 1-1. And you know what? If you were expecting this game to be lopsided, you're wrong, because it was exactly what we all expected it to be. As tight of a contest could be. And so we enter the second period, and early in the second period, just 7:32 in, Jake Sanderson, the young 25-year-old, I believe, for the United States of America, says, play. You don't have Charlie McAvoy, which ended up being a huge hit for Team USA, a tough hit for Team USA, but Jake Sanderson comes through for Team USA and makes it 2-1. But this Canada team has been a fighter throughout the entire tournament. This Canada team has had a lead in every game and has essentially blown it in every game. Now, they hadn't blown it enough to lose. That's why they're in the championship game and the eventual gold medal winners. But something that existed in this tournament was Team USA was giving up the first goal of the game. That happened in this contest, and Canada was blowing some type of lead, and that happened in this contest. But Sam Bennett, thanks to Mitch Marner, and some great play in the neutral zone, Sam Bennett ties the game 14 minutes into the second period. Here it is. Beautiful tic-tac-toe passing. Mitch Marner contest yesterday, 2 assists. And when you look at his totality of tournament, 4 games, he had the game winner in game number 1, and he had 2 assists essentially in game 7, or the championship game gold medal match for Team Canada. So when you look at players, huge impacts on this tournament, don't forget about Mitch Marner and the type of tournament he played, despite what the announcers are said would just said right there in that clip, or despite what you might have seen in games 2 and 3. First off, Mitch Marner, filthy, but secondly, played a good tournament. But in typical USA Canada fashion, it's 2-2 headed into third, and then we have 0 goals scored in the third period. And honestly, win, lose, or draw, like I said earlier, if you are a fan of hockey, you are a winner. If you're a fan of great sports in general, if you're a fan of either of these countries, you should have enjoyed this to the nth degree, regardless of the result, because you saw 2 groups of men competing to the nth degree, the highest level, 110% for their sweater, for their country, for the pride that they have in the land that they come from. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing that doesn't exist as much in our world today. We try and get around it when the Olympics happen, and we try and get around it in certain scenarios, maybe when the anthem's being played at a big sporting event or whatnot. But at the end of the day, the pride, at least in our country, is definitely down comparative to the last 240 some years. In Canada, pride might be down too. So these 2 hockey teams, they gave their countries just something to love for 7-8 days. And they put it all on the line for the pride of their flag. And I thought that was beautiful. And that matriculated into an overtime game, which is, I think, exactly what the fan deserved. Give me more of this. I want more 4 nations. I want more Canada versus USA. And you got it. And by the way, Jordan Binnington was the difference maker for Canada. McKinnon might have won the most valuable player of the tournament, but the Rome show is giving their most valuable player to Jordan Binnington. Last night, okay, he had 33 saves, but that wasn't the most important stat. The most important stat was he had 14 combined saves in the third period and overtime to secure the victory for Team Canada. They didn't even know what goalie they were going to use 2 days before this tournament. They went with Binnington. Their coaching staff said, John Cooper said, we trust this guy. 2019 Game 7 against the Boston Bruins Stanley Cup Finals. This man was the difference, which is why the St. Louis Blues have a Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington is that dude, especially in big-time games. And check out 2 or 3 of these saves he had in over. First, off the glove. Secondly, beautiful job right there, grabbing it from the glove side, off the blocker, first save, 2 in a row. And then check this one out. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to having an elite level goaltender in net in the most important games in hockey. That's a fact. When you look at each sport, there is a position that cannot be absent in the most important games. And in hockey, that is the goaltender. In baseball, that's the pitcher. In football, that's the quarterback, right? I would argue in basketball, it's the point guard because that person generally starts with the ball in their hand. And Binnington showed up for Canada. They're singing "Oh Canada" because he was in between the pipes for the first 10 minutes specifically of that overtime. I heard this quote yesterday, and copyright whoever said it because it's a great quote. I think it might have been John Cooper. There's a lot of people in Canada that owe Jordan Binnington an apology because of how well he played and how critical people were of him being in net and potentially even on this team. And then we talk a lot about Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is an all-time great, if not a Mount Rushmore hockey player in the all-time conversation. But this tournament for Team Canada was a generational thing. Here is the OG generation of Crosby, Marchand, and the group. And here is the new G generation of the group led by Connor McDavid and company. And isn't it fitting that Connor McDavid, the new next 15-year star for Canada, wins the game in overtime? I believe I have that winner. I do. Here it is. There's another over-the-shoulder goal. And check out this excitement. You can hear it in the background of this clip. That's why we took off the broadcasting. And if you don't think this means something to these guys, you're crazy. You're crazy. I'd argue in this moment, heading into this game, during some parts of this game, this meant more to these guys than anything they could ever think about in the National Hockey League. In that moment, they probably forgot that they were even in the National Hockey League. That's how much this meant to these guys. And I'm going to keep saying it. We, the fan, are the winner because of that. And that's what other sports need to realize. If you want what you got going on in your sport to be significantly better, start no further than the players. That was an exhibition. That was an all-star game. And now, because this was so successful, because the players, by the way, wanted this so badly, you're now going to have an every 2-year World Cup of Hockey, Olympics, gold medal, whatever, for hockey. So if 2026 is the Olympics, 2028 is the World Cup of Hockey, 2030 is the Olympics, 2032 is the World Cup of Hockey, etc. Think about your international soccer model of Olympics and World Cup and put that on ice for hockey. I cannot explain how gigantic that is for the sport. Because now, first off, next year when the Olympics roll around, so many more people are going to be interested in this sport because of what they witnessed from Finland, Sweden, Canada, and the United States. Because it's not just about these two countries. Though these two countries might be the top two in this sport, they might have the rivalry that really brings the eyes. It's about the talent level in this sport. The ice for the last week was flooded with the greatest players in the world. That's not hyperbole. That's not a false statement. That's not a hot take. That's the truth. They took the All-Star game and said, let's show these people, A, how good these players are, and B, where they come from. And so you now tell me that every 2 years, I'm going to get that energy and that emotion from these players? And if this thing, World Cup of Hockey-wise, can turn into the energy that the soccer World Cup has, sign me up. Sign me up. I couldn't be more excited. And I am down for the tournaments that put the United States sweater on the greatest players in on our country. I'm down for that. I love the opportunity for our country to compete against other countries in sports. And despite what people might think, despite what any person that doesn't like sports thinks or doesn't agree with sports thinks or whatever the case is, sports are gigantic. Sports are huge. When things are sad, negative, go wrong, sports bring us back. When you need a lesson on life, sports has you. Sports teaches you how to work on a team, teaches you how to be selfless, not selfish. Sports teaches you work ethic and understanding what a grind is, what preparation is, what process looks like. Sports teaches you every nook and cranny of life in any form inside of that sport to hopefully give you those experiences to have you prepared for life. So any person that doesn't like sports for whatever reason never made sense to me because of what sports teaches players, teaches the athlete. And I want more sports when representing our country. I want those two things to mesh. I want you to understand what goes on. How do people hate us? Yeah, they do. They hate us so much, they're going to boo our fencing team. They hate us so much, we're playing a quote-unquote exhibition hockey game, and they're going to boo us. And that's not everybody, and that's not to say that's exactly why you do it, but it's eye-opening. But it also makes you think about the pride you have in your flag, in your country. And for a moment, we can make the fighting about hockey. We can make the fighting about soccer. We can make the fighting about rugby, whatever sport it is, and not about killing people and not about hurting each other. And so I think that's why sports is great. And that's why I want more international sport v. sport competition, because it seems to be what I've understood as the closest, most respectful version of two countries duking it out. And so this was a win for hockey. This turning into a World Cup on and off with an Olympics every 2 years is a win for hockey. And I think in 10 years, when the Rome Show's the #1 morning show daily in the country, we're all going to be like, first off, we knew that was going to happen. But secondly, we also knew that hockey was going to be an even higher popularity than it is now. And we're all going to look back to the 2025 Four Nations Cup, just like we look back to 1980 when Michael Ruzioni scored that goal for the United States against the Soviet Union. And then we went on and won that gold medal. How big that was for hockey. That birthed the next generation of the sport. And that's probably why this generation has such pride in their sweater, because they grew up watching these dudes ahead of them have pride in their sweater beyond belief. And you'll see this in the next clip where Team Canada gets their anthem sung. And I just think this 45 seconds just shows you how much this meant to everybody. 9 days ago, we thought this tournament was just an exhibition. 9 days ago, we thought this tournament was just to fill the void during the NHL All-Star break. 9 days later, a head coach who's won 2 Stanley Cups, won a gold medal in the Olympics, multiple players that are beyond decorated on the international stage. They could have chose not to play in this tournament, let alone deciding to play in the tournament, let alone deciding to take it this serious. Did you see the beauty in that right there? And it hurts more for the United States to watch that today than it does for Canada, of course. But that right there is not about the Canadian flag. It's about pride. It's about how much those players were so proud to see their flag be raised, wear that gold medal, which didn't matter 9 days ago. No one knew that that would even matter. It didn't matter to anybody else but the 100 people associated with this tournament. Think about how powerful that is, man. They were the only people that cared. We all thought this would be a joke. We all thought it would just be some exhibition. And look at the response. To me, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I just believe that hockey better than anybody, can accomplish this. Here's my final clip before the commercial break. It's Sidney Crosby talking about could have taken the break and no one would have blamed him. Sidney Crosby. 2004, age 16, 5.6 games, World Juniors. Age 17, 9.6 games, 2005 World Juniors. 2006 World Championship, Sidney Crosby, 16 points in 9 games. 2010 Olympics, 7.7 games, gold medal. 3 points in 6 games, the 2014 Olympics, gold medal. 2015 World Championship, 11 points in 9 games. 2016 World Cup of Hockey, 10 points in 6 games. 2005 Four Nations Face-Off, 5 points in 3 games. Sidney Crosby, literally a top 4 greatest hockey player of all time, brought that much passion and energy and cared about that much. And he's got arguably the greatest career in Canada hockey history when it comes to the international stage. We're going to take a quick time out here on the Rome Show. We'll be back to get your comments and talk about ESPN and MLB. It's the Rome Show. It's 12-ounce sports. It's the people. It's hockey. And it's a commercial break. See ya.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Yeah. The Rome Show. 12-ounce sports.com broadcasting live, YouTube, X, Roku, Amazon. You can get it so many places. You can even get the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search it. Rocky Romanella writes in, as he loves to do when he's not here on a Tuesday, which we love from him. Oh, that's not what we're doing, although that's his sound.
I can't handle this too Rocky Romanella.
He said, just looked at the ticket prices, less than $300 for gold medal game before the tournament started, okay? And it went up to $1,200 once it became Canada-USA, just about $3,000 by yesterday. That is ridiculous, but that'll show you the importance of that game. The care level is probably a better way to put it. The care level of the people wanting to show up to that game. Rocky, stats and analytics, thank you. We appreciate that from you. We got some news out of Major League Baseball yesterday, and it's not good, okay? ESPN and Major League Baseball have partnered since essentially like 1990 for Major League Baseball to house about 90 games a year in terms of MLB regular season, the All-Star Game, the Home Run Derby, etc. When I was growing up, and most might remember this up until 2017, Baseball Tonight was a staple in the baseball world for seeing the highlights and hearing about the news and the updates and all of that. So ESPN since 2017 has been trending downwards with their baseball coverage to the point where since 2021, they've only covered roughly 30 games, primarily on Sunday Night Baseball and All-Star Game, Home Run Derby. So they announced yesterday that the TV deal that ends at the end of 2025 will not be renewed, ending the run for Major League Baseball on ESPN. Now, there are plenty of streaming services. There are so many places you could go. There's just so many things that baseball could do. But it's not about that. It's about That is an indictment on where the game of baseball is at right now. If ESPN, the granddaddy of all of the sports networks, if ABC and ESPN no longer want to continue your partnership as they look to spend billions in college football and the NBA and college basketball and the NFL, that's a problem. They don't see value in your product. And we've talked about this a multitudes of times on this show, including a few times this week, where baseball has to figure this out. Okay. And I don't think you can look any further than the amount of games played in the season. It's too many. There's no one in their right mind that wants to watch 162 baseball games. Not a chance. That might have been cool in 1965. That might have been the thing when the sport was the coolest sport on the planet. But that doesn't exist anymore. It's not loved like basketball or football or any other sport for that matter. You wouldn't have the response from the fans that you do have, like in the World Baseball Classic. Though, similar concept to hockey, but it's half the sport and half the games. And right now, baseball's not in a spot where people want to take a care level to say, oh, I want to watch this. And ESPN doesn't have the care level to continue to broadcast it. So something needs to be addressed here. And something's got to be figured out because the TV deals regionally already stink for baseball. That's partly why they don't make enough money. They're not a national sport, and this is going to hurt their opportunity to be a national sport. And Rob Manfred already understands that the sport has a competitive imbalance because there are certain teams that are able to utilize the rules better than others for whatever reason that might be, whether it's just because you might not make enough money or because you're the Yankees and you've decided you don't want to operate like you've operated for the entirety of your existence. Whatever it is, there's a serious issue in baseball. And not only now do you have this competitive fight between the umpires and the players and the rules of the game, you now have this fight of where the hell are we broadcasting these games? Who the hell is watching these games? And is our sport surviving this? And I urge Rob Manfred and the rest of the baseball community to look at the COVID 2020 season. Don't look any further than the COVID 2020 season. That was arguably, outside of the circumstances in our country and the inopportunity for people to be in the stands and the fake mask wearing thing, that was the best year of baseball because it was a dead sprint. It was 60-some games. Everybody had a chance to make it. Freaking the Marlins were in the playoffs, and it wasn't one of those like in the playoffs they're good enough to win a World Series, and the next 6 years they're going to stink. It was they're like mid-level. Like, okay, they're kind of good. And then there was like, oh, there's hope for the Marlins next year. Like, well, no, in theory, if they play 100 more games, they're not good enough to even compete because they're 32-30 or whatever. That got them the last wild card spot in a 62-game sprint over 100 games would not get them in the playoffs at all, which I don't know if you think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing. First off, 162, ridiculous. Secondly, I want all the teams to have a chance. That's kind of what the NBA does. 16 teams make it. I'm not saying that's great either, but like, what the hell can we do here? If ESPN's dropping your sport, you got a problem. Baseball's got to figure it out. We'll talk more about that next week because I want to get to, what you watching?
Numero quattro.
No. Wait. I got it.
What you watching?
There it is. Number one, Friday night, Knicks at Cavs, 7 p.m. on ESPN. The New York Knickerbockers are 37-18. They're in third place in the Eastern Conference, 8 game back of the first place. Cleveland Cavaliers, who they are playing 45-10. Those Cleveland Cavaliers they're a really good basketball team. Saturday, the Lakers at the Nuggets, 8:30 p.m. ABC. The Lakers 33-21. The Luka LeBron experiment continues. Luka didn't play last night because he's continuing back off that injury. Denver, winners of 9 straight. They are a spot above the Lakers at 37-19. And then finally, both Saturday and Sunday, I'm watching the return of the National Hockey League. Oops. Why am I watching the return of the National Hockey League? Because I want to see how these players reintegrate into their teams. What's this going to be like? Is there going to be a little bit more bad blood between two dudes that were on like USA and Canada, and now they're on like Boston and New York? Like, I want to see that, okay? And I want to see how these players come back, because that's going to go a long way in determining how the general managers, how the owners, how the not hockey fans and players of this feel that this tournament went. Because I am sure with the injury to McAvoy, injury to Matthew Tkachuk, and some others, some of these general managers are not happy how that tournament turned out. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I am watching this weekend. Oops, my bad.
What you watching?
I'll get better at that sounder for you. The what you watching one's not in a good spot. I got to fix that. Let's finish this show, ladies and gentlemen, with nope.
Ba 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 na na ba ba.
All right. I'll make it quick because we're over. We went 2-2 last night. We had the score right, 3-2 under 5.5. But USA lost, so we lose that point. We took Boston at minus the 7.5. They won by 20 against the 76ers. We took Memphis at minus the 3.5. They lost close game to the Pacers. We're 56-47. Let's go to the National Hockey League. On Saturday, we got the Ducks plus 1.5 against the Boston Bruins. A lot of players from the Bruins in that tournament, including one of their best, Brad Marchand. And then Friday, back it up. Knicks plus 7.5 against the Cavs. Both teams coming off a back-to-back, but I think the Knicks are good enough to cover that 7.5 spread. So those are my 2 picks for the weekend, and that's the Rome Show on a Friday. I appreciate the people tuning in. Thank you to those that have commented all week, that have watched all week, and that continues to support the show. I got to be honest with you, it's awesome. And I just want to keep bringing you the best that I possibly can. Follow the social media. Follow the mothership, YouTube, X. Those are the 2 best ones. Or just head to 12ouncesports.com. We'll be back on Monday with all your weekend sports and some fun. Hopefully, have an electric weekend. This is Andrew Omanella saying peace.
Thank you for listening.